Okay, so here we go. We're starting with a fresh piece of sinew now. We've knotted our thread, and we're going to hide that knot. We're not going to do a tack on this one, we're going live. So we're hiding our knot. Bring your toe up, find that tick on the back, join the two together. And pull it closed. We're going to do one more whip stitch in the same spot, just so that it doesn't loosen when we go around. So if you watched our basic sewing video, you've already learned the whip stitch. This is a whip stitch, but it's modified. So every pucker is going to be 2 stitches. So you're going to form the pucker, line up your needle, and you can use this finger to hold it. Hold it back, watch your fingies. Go right through both layers. Pull tight. And then you're going to do a second stitch right in that same spot. Okay, and that's going to lock it in place. Then your next pucker, you're going to lean it right up against the other one. So every pucker has 2 stitches. It's important to move along the vamp. And what that means is, for every pucker that you do, you're going to make sure that you're moving along on the side of the vamp, along the vamp. Otherwise, if you try and get your puckers really close together, you're going to be bunching all of the sole material, but if you're not moving along the vamp, then you're going to stack all your puckers at the toe, and then you're going to have a really funny club or elf toe. So move along the vamp about how deep your puckers are. So if your puckers are 1/8 of an inch, make sure you're moving 1/8 of an inch along the vamp. Okay, so moving along the vamp is important. Also your tension. So watching the basic sewing video, you'll know that that's really important, and you'll see that the hide actually puckers a little bit. Okay, so don't be afraid to pull nice and tight here. And then your stitch depth is also important. So how far from the edge you're going. And that's again about 1/8 of an inch. Okay, from the edge of the hide interior to where you're putting your needle, about 1/8 of an inch, give or take a little bit. You don't want to go too close to the edge because it'll just tear out. And you don't want to go too deep because then it will just look bad. Your pucker height is going to depend on what hide you're using. If you're using a thinner deer hide, then you can make your puckers quite a bit smaller. And if you're using moose or bison, then your puckers are going to be bigger. Just remember to always move along your vamp. And it's 2 stitches for every pucker. Okay, and you're checking to see. You're wanting the vamp and the sole to line up. So I still have all of that to pucker. Getting there. Okay, so there we are. My vamp is now in line with the sole, and I'm just going to do a straight whip stitch all the way back to my initial tack. So I've gone all the way down to my tack, and now I can either take the tack out or just leave it in. It's up to you. And I'm just going to leave it in. And then you're going to double up your stitches right at the tack. And that's just to reinforce that high stress point when you're taking your moccasin on and off. Okay, and then I'm going to go all the way back to my last pucker, and that's going to give it a nice look. It's going to make an X. You don't need to do that. You can just go 5 or 6 stitches here, and that just helps reinforce this area, which again is where you're going to be pulling your moccasin on and off. So I'm going to go all the way back to my last pucker, and then we'll be done the one side. Okay, so I've gone all the way back and it's given that nice crisscross look. And again, if you note the tension, the hide does pucker a little bit there, and that just means I've pulled nice and tight. And when you're finishing your stitching, you're going to do it the same way as you finish off your thimble or your tack. You're going to go through twice, 3 times in the same spot. And before you pull that loop tight, you're going to pass your needle through once and twice, pull nice and tight, and now you can snip it off. And there we have it. Our first half of our first moccasin finished. Now we just have to fill in this gap, and we can march around with the toes of our one moccasin done. Yeehaw! I've made a new knot, and I've hidden it underneath here, right at the first pucker that you had going left, and now we're going to go to the right. And the first one is a little bit tricky, just to get the hang of it, but now I'm using my left index finger to pinch the pucker. One stitch and 2 to lock it. Okay, and now I can use that pucker, leaning it up against the last one. Okay, and everybody has an on side and an off side. That was actually a nasty pucker. I'm going to put another stitch in there just to close up that hole. There we go. We have a mantra in our workshops that we try to abide by, and that is affection without perfection. So this is a handcraft, and it's hand done, and nobody's perfect. And instead of dwelling over every single little pucker, we want to embrace the imperfection, because right now you're looking at it really closely, up close to your face, but soon it's going to be on your feet, and you're not going to be able to tell whether one pucker is slightly bigger than the other. And certainly nobody else will be able to tell. They're all going to not even believe you that you made them. Unless, of course, you get the duct tape out. So affection without perfection. We're moving along the vamp, making sure we're pulling nice and tight. And we're going to continue puckering on this side until our sole matches up with our vamp, and then we're going to do a straight stitch all the way to the tack. Some people find the right side to be difficult, and if you turn your whole moccasin around and then you're puckering in reverse, that seems to help some people. But you have to do that from the start, because if I did that now, then this stitch is going to lay over top of the pucker, and you don't want that. So you can try it. If it's not working out for you, you can go back and try it in reverse. At our workshops, this seems to really help people who are struggling with doing the puckers on their offside. If you're left-handed, it might be the opposite. You might have a harder time going to the left. Okay, and there we go. We've got one toe finished. We've puckered from the left, straight, and back, starting at the center and going to the right, straight, and back. And now we can work on the second toe. We always like to do both toes before the heels, just because you've created this new muscle memory for the puckering, and so it's nice to get both toes finished at the same time. But we're going to move on to sizing the heel now. So get your second toe done. You can rewind the video if you need to review the instructions, and then we'll get right on to the heel.